Holy cow. So, just a cow, what's the topic of the video? PED, performing enhancement drugs, if you don't know what the PED stands for. So I always call it PED. And this has always been, I'm a nerd, sorry, but let's be honest, I'm a nerd. This has always interested me, is what is the motivating factor for athletes trying to take a shortcut to gain an advantage. Now, if you look at the wide range of sports, what's the one sport, a non-sport, do you think of when you think of PED? You don't think of hockey, you don't think of tennis, you definitely don't think of golf. You think of actually three things. You think of the NFL, you think of wrestling, because wrestling has been they've had issues with it over the years. They've tried to clean up the act recently, but they've done a better job with it, more so than Major League Baseball. Oh my God, Major League Baseball has tried to clean up this image, but they have a problem. They have a serious problem with it because in the late 80s, early 90s, even in, early 2000s, there was an abundance of players using PEDs. And because of this, there's been who should we let into the Hall of Fame? Like there's Barry Bonds, there's Sammy Sosa, there's Mark McGwire, there's Jose Canseco. And they say Roger Clemens, but I don't see Roger Clemens so much using it. Now, sports, I've said this before, has evolved over time. That if you look at the home run totals, excluding Babe Ruth, because that was way back in the 20s and the 30s, excluding that, home runs didn't really happen as frequently until Hank Aaron came along. And then, the numbers started to drop off a little bit. But then there came the 80s when there was a big boom with the PEDs and the players using it. Wrestling, especially if you watched in the 80s, a lot of the wrestlers, you could tell which ones were on the steroids because there was a quite abundance of it that when you were watching, and even then, you knew they weren't going to the gym to work out, like Ultimate Warrior, even Hulk Hogan, he admitted to it, Randy Savage. So there was abundance of wrestlers that used it, and that went into Major League Baseball. NFL, I don't think NFL has the problem with the steroids as much as Major League Baseball. Yes, there's the classic example of Lyle Azedo. There's always that example they always throw out to you about Lyle Azedo. And Lyle Azedo, he had the roid rage because he wanted to kill people on the football field because he was a little bit insane. I don't know if that was just the Raider mystique or the steroids screwed up his brain. So I'm not sure which it is with Lyle Azedo. He was just nuts. Watch some of those old video clips and you'll see what I mean. That guy was just bonkers. He was really out there. So, Major League Baseball, why am I talking about this? I can't pronounce his name, so I'm not going to try. But there was an Atlanta Braves baseball player that got suspended again for PED. So, and I was looking and I was like, I've never heard of this guy. Him using PED doesn't really make a lot of sense because he only has, and through his career, like 10 plus years, he only has 125 home runs. He got suspended for half of the season last year for PED. And he got busted again, and he's suspended for the entire season, which is 162 games. So he's not going to be playing at all this year. And I don't really know who he is. Of course, I don't follow baseball as much as I used to, and I don't know who it is, but he's not like a big name, obviously not. And I'm like thinking, okay, they're trying to clean up the act, trying to set an example by suspending players that use PED. But here's the problem with that, and this has always been a problem, is, yes, there's that if you have enough money, and if you make enough money, you could go down to Mexico and get your system cleaned out. That's the only problem. I'm not sure if it's like the Olympics, where the tests that they do are completely random. I don't know if they just sort of decide, okay, we're going to test this person and test this person, because you're not hearing a lot of people in Major League Baseball getting suspended for PED use. But you are hearing it's some, but not a lot, because Major League Baseball is they're in a scandal. This is a big time scandal, and they're trying to clean up the PED usage because they don't want another problem. It is a problem what they had, especially with late 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. They don't want to go back necessarily to that. But whenever you say Major League Baseball, that automatically you go the PED usage and the Hall of Fame. A lot of these, they're going, well, they cheated the game, so they're not going to let players into the Hall of Fame, which I find it a little stupid. Okay, maybe they did cheat the game, but in wrestling, they let a lot of the people that use steroids, and trust me, there was a lot, they allowed a lot of those wrestlers to be in the Hall of Fame. I know it's like comparing apples to oranges or hamburgers to steak, but to me, it's pretty much the same thing, is that they let those people into the Hall of Fame, but with Major League Baseball, they're trying to send a message, but the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame is sort of becoming a joke like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Because the reason I say that is because Pete Rose, who didn't use any steroids, is not in the Hall of Fame. And all he did was bet on baseball. He didn't even use PED, but he's not in the Hall of Fame. So I'm like, there's a serious problem with the Hall of Fame, and you think of the PED usage, and that's another problem. And it's a huge problem that Major League Baseball has unsuccessfully tried to clean up because of, who was it? Alex Rodriguez, A-Rod, somebody like that use PED a lot. So it's a problem that Major League Baseball has, and they try not to address the elephant in the room. It's like when you go over to somebody's house and there's a great big elephant, and you see that elephant there, but you decide, nope, not going to discuss it. The commissioner is doing that the same thing with him. He's not discussing the PED usage in Major League Baseball. Does it give him an advantage? More than likely it does, because look at what Bonds, Sosa did that one year in 1998 when they hit over 70 home runs apiece in one season. So yes, it does give you an advantage, and that's why I'm not sure with Roger Clemens if he used it, because his numbers pretty much stayed the same, and he was just a pitcher. Because if you look at Bonds and Sosa, their numbers went up and skyrocketed after the PED usage. And that's another thing, that's another topic I won't get into, is those numbers. Is there an asterisk next to their numbers because of their PDE usage? I don't know. This is a serious issue Major League Baseball has, and I don't think it's ever going away. Because long as doctors illegally prescribe PED to players and wrestlers and what have you, as long as they keep doing this, PED is going nowhere, because they always want to find that little bitty shortcut to get an advantage. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it will always be. At least in the NFL, Major League Baseball, and wrestling's tried to clean up the act. They probably did a better job with it than the NFL has and Major League Baseball.
Me and Mom are saying that's all for now.
That's all for now.